A couple of weeks later, when nothing had been thrown into the sea for that long.
He paused for a while, and when he finally continued, his voice was little more than a hoarse whisper.
That awful night, I seed him. I was up in the cupola of our house. Hordes of them, swarms of them, all over the reef, swimming up the harbor into the Monuxet. God, what happened in the streets of Innsmouth that night? They rattled our door, but Pa wouldn't open. And then he clumb out of the kitchen window with his musket to find selectman Maori and see what he could do. Mounds of the dead and the dying. Shots and screams. Shouting in Old Square and Town Square. New Church Green. Jail throwed open. Proclamation, treason. And called it the plague when folks come in and found half our people missing. Nobody left but them as a giant in with Obed and them things. Or else keep quiet. Never heard of my pa no more.
The old man was panting and perspiring profusely.
Everything cleaned up in the morning. But there was traces. Obed, he kinda takes charge and says things is gonna be changed. Others will worship with us at meeting time. And certain houses has got to entertain guests. They wanted to mix like they done with the Kanakys, and he, for one, didn't feel bound to stop 'em. Far gone was Obed, just like a crazy man on the subject. He says they brung us fish and treasure, and should have what they hankered after. Nothing was to be different on the outside. Only we was to keep shy of strangers if we knowed what was good for us. We all had to take the oath of Dagon, and later on they was second and third oaths that some on us took. Them as would help special, it gets special rewards, gold and such. No use balking, for they was millions of 'em down there. They'd rather not start rising and wiping out humankind, but if they was gave away and forced to, they could do a lot toward just that. Now, we didn't have them old charms to cut 'em off like folks in the South Sea did, and them Kanakys wouldn't never give away their secrets. Yield up enough sacrifices and savage knickknacks and harborage in the town when they wanted it, and they let well enough alone. Wouldn't bother no strangers as might bear tales outside, that is, without they got prying. All in the band of the faithful, order of Dagon, and the children should never die, but go back to the mother Hydra and father Dagon, where we all come from, on't. La, Cthulhu for taken, Funglui, Mgulawan Nuff, Cthulhu Relaya, Wagar Noggle for taken.
Old Zadok was fast lapsing into stark raving, and I held my breath. Poor old soul. To what pitiful depths of hallucination had his liquor, plus his hatred of the decay, alienage, and disease around him, brought that fertile, imaginative brain? He began to moan now, and tears were coursing down his channeled cheeks into the depths of his beard.
God, what I seen sank I was 15-year-old. Mean, tickle parson. The folks as was missing, and them as killed themselves. Them as told things in Arkham or Ipswich or such places was all called crazy, like you're calling me right now. But God, what I seen. They'd have killed me long ago for what I know. Only I took the first and second oaths of Dagon off of Obed, so I was protected unless in a jury of 'em proved I told things knowing and deliberate. But I wouldn't take the third oath. I'd have died rather than take that. It got worse around Civil War time, when children born St. 46 begun to grow up. Some of 'em, that is. I was afeard. Never did no prying out of that awful night. and never see one of them close to in all my life. That is, never no full-blooded one. I went to the war, and if I'd have had any guts or sense, I'd have never come back, but settled away from here. But folks wrote me things once so bad. That, I suppose, was because government draft men was in town after '63. After the war, it was just as bad again. People begun to fall off, mills and shops shut down, shipping stopped and the harbor choked up, railroad give up. But they never stopped swimming in and out of the river from that cursed reef of Satan. And more attic windows got boarded up, and more noises was heard in houses as one supposed to have nobody in 'em. And then 46, Captain Obed took a second wife that nobody in the town never seen. Some says he didn't want to, but was made to by them as he called in. He had 3 children by her. 2 was disappeared young, but one gal as looked like anybody else and was educated in Europe. Obed finally got her married off by a trick to an Arkham fella as didn't suspect nothing. But nobody outside'll have nothing to do with Innsmouth folks now. Barnabas Morris, that runs the refinery now, is Obed's grandson by his first wife, son of Onesiphorus, his eldest son. But his mother was another of them as one never seen outdoors. Right now, Barnabas is about changed, can't shut his eyes no more, and is all out of shape. Maybe he's tried it already. They do sometimes go down for little spells afore they go for good. Ain't been seen about in public for now 10 years. Don't know how his poor wife can feel. She come from Ipswich, and they nigh lynched Barnabas when he courted her 50-odd years ago. Obed, he died in '78. All the next generation's gone now. His first wife's children dead, and the rest, God knows.
The sound of the incoming tide was now very insistent, and little by little it seemed to change the old man's mood from maudlin tearfulness to watchful fear. He would pause now and then to renew those nervous glances over his shoulder or out toward the reef, and despite the wild absurdity of his tale, I could not help beginning to share his vague apprehensiveness. Zadok now grew shriller, and seemed to be trying to whip up his courage with louder speech.
Hey, you, why don't you say something? How'd you like to be living in a town like this, with everything a-rotting and a-dying, and boarded-up monsters crawling and bleating and barking and hopping around black cellars and attics every way you turn? Hey! How'd you like to hear the howling night after night from the churches and order a Dagon Hall and know what's doing part of the howling? How'd you like to hear what comes from that awful reef every May Eve and Owl Mass? Huh? You think the old man's crazy, huh? Well, sir, let me tell you, that ain't the worst. Well, even if I ain't told nobody nothing yet, I'm a-going to now. You just sit still and listen to me, boy. This is what I ain't never told nobody. I says I didn't do no prying after that night, but I found things out just the same. You want to know what the real horror is? Huh? Well, this is it. Well, it's this. It ain't what them fish devils has done, but what they're a-going to do. They're a-bringing things up out of where they come from into the town. They've been doing it for years and slackening up lately. Them houses north of the river betwixt Water and Main Streets is full of them. Them devils and what they brung. And when they get ready, I say, when they get ready. You ever hear tell of a Shoggoth? Hey, d'you hear me? I tell you, I know what them things be. I seen him one night when...
The hideous suddenness and inhuman frightfulness of the old man's shriek almost made me faint. His eyes, looking past me toward the malodorous sea, were positively starting from his head, while his face was a mask of fear worthy of Greek tragedy. His bony claw dug monstrously into my shoulder, and he made no motion as I turned my head to look at whatever he'd glimpsed. There was nothing that I could see. Only the incoming tide, with perhaps one set of ripples more local than the long-flung line of breakers. But now, Zadok was shaking me, and I turned back to watch the melting of that fear-frozen face into a chaos of twitching eyelids and mumbling gums. Presently his voice came back, albeit as a trembling whisper.
Get out of here! Get out of here! They seen us. Get out for your life. Don't wait for nothing. They know now. Run for it. Quick, out of this town.
Another heavy wave dashed against the loosening masonry of the bygone wharf and changed the mad ancient's whisper to another inhuman and blood-curdling scream. Before I could recover my scattered wits, he had relaxed his clutch on my shoulder and dashed wildly inland toward the street, reeling northward around the ruined warehouse wall. I glanced back at the sea, but there was nothing there. And when I reached Water Street and looked along it toward the north, there was no remaining trace of Zadok Allen.